Today, I want to talk about something that has been irritating me for the longest time. I talk a lot on this channel about how much I value change and the opportunity to change. If in one of my videos I make a statement, I give an opinion, and I get some backlash and people help me to reframe my attitude and see a different perspective, well, I typically welcome the opportunity. But that does not mean that my opinions are entirely malleable, or worse, that I am gullible in any way. I just like change. I like growth. These are good things. But I do have a few hills that I am willing to die on. The biggest one, and I'll take any opportunity to talk about this, is the fact that separating art from the artist is not a good thing. I'm not going to go into that, and you can't tempt me right now, but I will always make videos about that because I am always right. And the other one is what I want to talk about here today, which is that you do not have to finish a book in order to review it and discuss it in a critical way. And when I say this, I'm not just talking about books. I'm talking about films, TV shows, video games, whatever. You do not have to fully consume a piece of art in order to add a valuable criticism to the discussion around that piece of art. It is okay to make a video, to write an article, to do whatever you want when it comes to criticizing a piece of art, even if you didn't finish it. That's fine. And there are a few reasons why, and I'm going to use this video to discuss them. But one of them is that the fact that you didn't finish it is a criticism in and of itself. You can use the fact that you didn't finish it as an opportunity to discuss that work of art's failings and your disconnected relationship to it. There's a lot that you can do. You can use thousands of words or minutes upon minutes of a video, whatever, to dig deeper and deeper and deeper into a piece of art and explore it in myriad ways. How it made you feel, what it failed at, what it succeeded at, how it didn't make you feel. These things are all valuable, right? There are kind of two ways to review something, and I try to do both. The first is a more scientific approach. You pull open a piece of art and you look at the different elements that make it tick. For example, say you are reviewing a video game. Let's not talk about books for a sec, because I have reviewed video games as well in the past. I didn't really enjoy it, but I do love video games and I really value video game criticism. When you're reviewing a video game, you can take this approach, which is looking at the different elements that make up a video game. For example, the visuals. You can separate the visuals into two categories just by itself. One is the art direction, the style of the visuals, and the other is the performance of the visuals, the graphical power, the frame rate, etc. What people generally call graphics. Graphics and art are different, but they're both visual. Then you have sound. You can talk about sound design and you can talk about music. They're also separate. Then you can talk about the narrative. And within the narrative, you could break that down into the writing, the overall plot, the general performances, etc., etc. And all of that is before you even get into video game mechanics, how the game plays, the innovations or lack thereof, what it feels like in your hands, how those mechanics work within the narrative, and whether or not there's some kind of dissonance there. And you can break down the mechanics wildly, because that's what you're spending most of your time doing, is connecting to the game through its mechanics. And you can break these things down even further. You understand. The other approach to criticism comes from a more emotive and personal place. How did it make you feel, and why? Because ultimately, a piece of criticism is a person's opinion based on what they experienced, right? And some people prefer one approach over the other. I like both, and I try to do both when I review books. I break down a book into its themes, its characters, its writing style, its genre, whether or not it innovates or brings something new to the table, what it has to say about its politics, about what inspired it, about who the author is and what led them to this place, etc., etc. You break it down into all these different elements, all these different pieces, and you examine how successful they were. It's kind of a scientific approach. The other is personal connection. People come to critics because they want to know their opinions, their reaction, their feelings. And so I do my best to bring that to a piece of art. How did it make me feel and why? What is my personal connection to it? And then when you review something, you can do the same. And these are two different approaches, both of which I respect, and both of which I try to do in a single review at any given time. For example, I could look scientifically at the feminist themes of a piece of literature, and then On the topic of feminism, I could talk about why that's important to me personally, and whether or not I connected with the way that this particular book explored the theme and politics of feminism. And why? Why does it work? And why do I feel it? They're kind of two different things. And you can dig even deeper and spend more time on both of these things. It's layered. Criticism is a wonderful thing. I love it so much. I love reviewing things and I love the art of critique. So, with all of that said, I believe that you don't have to finish a book in order to give a valuable, nuanced, and interesting review of it. And I'm making this video now because I recently gave up on this book pretty early on, and I was disappointed by that. I was really excited to read this. This standalone fantasy novel is called The Sky on Fire by Jen Lyons. I was so excited to read this book. I love standalone fantasy books because typically fantasy books are massive bloated things, and I love fantasy, don't get me wrong, but quite often a fantasy book is 800 pages and it's the first book in a trilogy or a massive series. Time, dedication, all of these things factor into our enjoyment of fantasy. So whenever standalones come along, I'm like, okay, great. Give me a concise story that I can enjoy in and of itself without dedicating myself to an incredible amount of time, etc., etc. That in itself is a positive criticism that I have of this book. Just the fact that it's a standalone book is an interesting thing because I can explain why that is in its favor from my perspective as a reader, and every perspective is valuable. I was also excited by the fact that it's got dragons in it. Dragons are one of my favorite tropes of the fantasy genre. I bloody love dragons. I always love dragons. And this book seems to be doing something interesting with dragons. Great. It is also marketed as a heist story. That's exciting. I love a good heist. And then finally, the icing on the cake is the fact that this is a sapphic novel with a sapphic romance subplot. Great. I love sapphic things. That's awesome. So surely a standalone fantasy book with dragons, sapphic stuff, and a heist, yeah, no brainer. And yet I made it 100 pages into this 500 and something page novel. And I thought, well, I can't review it now, can I? Yeah. I absolutely could. That's not really what this video is. It's about why it's okay to do that. And after I decided to put this book down or DNF it, I Googled it, I explored Goodreads. I've been doing that more and more lately, and I kind of hate myself for it because I don't like Goodreads, and yet I'm constantly looking for sympathy on Goodreads. People who share my experiences and feel similarly to me about something for various reasons, whatever. And I found that the Goodreads algorithm had pushed to the surface a lot of reviews that reacted the same way that I did. So many that said DNF'd at 10%, DNF'd at 15%. Now, I DNF'd at like 20%, I don't know. I didn't read it digitally, so you don't get that percentage like you get on Kindles, but if I do the maths, I don't know, 22%, something like that, right? But a lot of people are DNFing this book before they make it a quarter of the way through. I'm one of those people. And the reason the algorithm is floating those reviews to the top is because they're the ones that are getting the most likes, which means they're the ones that most people agree with, right? Numbers. So it's a common issue with this book. That, in and of itself, is interesting. Why is it that this book is getting a lot of no-star reviews from people who DNF'd it? And following that DNF, they might write a one-line thing explaining why, a short paragraph, or an entire detailed review, which some of them did, explaining in detail why this book failed to hold their attention. And therein lies the value of what I'm saying here. You can explain why, and that is valuable. Just for the record, I DNF'd this book because, in my opinion, it failed at many of the key things that a good fantasy novel should accomplish. The first being its world building. The book begins with a very exciting prologue, in which the main character is absent and yet talked about in a way that hypes her up. A human dragon rider crashes the party of a town's mayor to tell him that he will be killed by their dragon overlords unless he finds this young woman that everyone thought was dead. The dragons know otherwise, and they want her dead. And they tell the mayor this girl needs to be found and killed, or the consequences will be dire. This is good world building right from the beginning. One, It's cool to see that the dragons are in charge, and the people who ride them are not actually in control of them, but more like puppets, maybe? It's hard to tell at first, and that question, that dubiousness, is exciting. It also establishes our main character as someone of note, but not necessarily some grand hero, more like someone with a price on their head, or someone who has a reason to be feared, protected. They are something of a curiosity. This prologue very successfully plants in your mind a lot of questions about the state of this world, its politics, its history, the relationship between humans and dragons, and a lot of questions about our main character. Who is she? Why is this happening? Where is she now? What happened to her in the past? Why does everyone think she's dead? Why isn't she dead? My cat is purring around my feet because she wants food. But if I pick her up, yeah, she's not in the mood. So, good prologue. Very successful. Then everything kind of falls apart, because in chapter 1, we are thrust into a new situation with our protagonist. She's rubbing up against the tripod. It's like shaking. Stop it. And the sheer amount of exposition that proves to be entirely useless is genuinely fascinating. Across the first few chapters of this book, we are given so much information about the fact that this world exists on kind of two tiers. You have the people who live in the sky, I think they're called Skylanders, who live on, I guess, mountaintops. And then you have the people underneath, the people who live in the deserts and the swamps and the forests, etc. It's more dangerous down there. If you've ever played Final Fantasy IX, I'm kind of imagining below the mist, but that's gonna mean so little to so many people. Above the clouds is a prosperous world of people and dragons, and below the clouds, on the ground, it's a dangerous place of strange tribes and cultures. And our protagonist is down there. But through these first few chapters, we are given so much information about the difference culturally, politically, economically between these two places, but we have no frame of reference yet. All of this feels entirely pointless. You're being handed things and you don't know what to do with them. It's like if someone thrust 20 apples into your arms and you're slowly filling up your arms with apples and you go, what the do I do with these apples? Where do I put them? What do I do with them? I can't eat them. I have nowhere to put them. Give me a bag. Do something. That's how it feels. I was like, I can't keep up with this. It's so much exposition. Thank you. But it's very awkward. It's very forced. Exposition is a murky thing at best, no matter the situation. And I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how it's supposed to help me in this context. How do I juggle this exposition with what's actually happening in the narrative, with what's happening to our protagonist and where she is and what she's doing, which, by the way, is a complete mystery. For so long, she talks about this group of people and how she's... Oh, the cat farted. You farted, Mary. Oh, it's awful. Truly, I cannot get on with this video. Oh my God. Oh, she never farts. That's such a dog thing. Nasty farts, right? It's why you get a cat. It's the only reason you get a cat is so they don't do stinky farts, but yeah. Anyway, I couldn't figure out where our protagonist was and why she was there and where she was going. And then it only got worse when more characters were introduced incredibly quickly. She's on the run, she's done something bad, and then she's sort of swept up into this group of people. And I couldn't tell if she was rescuing them or if they rescued her. It's very ambiguous. Maybe that's because I was overwhelmed by the world building. Maybe it's because the writing was kind of murky and unclear. Either way, the book failed to give me the information that I needed in a way that I could understand it. That's bad. That is already putting me at the very end of my tether. On top of that, I have been crushed under the weight of useless exposition that I cannot do anything with because I have nothing to do with it. I don't know how that, it's not useful, it's not relevant. Exposition is bad because it dumps information in your lap that you don't need. It's much more organic to be given information as and when it becomes relevant, to be drip-fed information so that the world kind of comes into clarity around you. The edges of the map get filled in gradually as the world expands, as characters explore. When two characters start having a conversation about religion, that's your opportunity to talk about the mythology of the world, the deities, the methods of worship, things like that. The same with the economy and the politics and the international relations and if anyone's at war with anyone and why, etc. You fill that in gradually. But this book goes, here's everything you need to know. Memorize it. By the way, this is happening. What's happening? Doesn't matter. But it does matter. You keeping up? No? You lost? Well, DNF it then. So I did. This is useful criticism. I am criticizing the elements of the book that I read. I don't know why I'm doing this. And I am explaining why the book failed for me personally as a reader. Within 100 pages, I was given so much information that wasn't useful, and I was told a story that I couldn't follow. And when this huge group of characters are introduced, they cannot be separated from each other. They are one amorphous blob of people who are all the same as far as I can tell. They all have really awkward names that I found very difficult to keep in my head. Fantasy naming is difficult, and it's a skill in and of itself. Naming fantasy characters and places and religions and gods and whatever else, there's a real craft to it. George R. R. Martin, Robin Hobb, these authors, in my opinion, are particularly good at it. Jen Lyons is not, in my opinion. I am very confused by the naming conventions here and the fact that these names are just clumsy messes and jumbles of letters that I would never attempt to say out loud. Well done to the audiobook narrator for overcoming that hurdle, I imagine. I didn't listen to it. But just trying to keep a handle on all these different names and how these characters are differentiated from each other is impossible. All we get to start with is physical attributes. The redhead girl, the short boy, whatever. And then they're given names. And then once they have names, they're not physically described anymore, and they've been given no personalities to carry them through. There is no way to differentiate them based on their behavior because they have no independent behaviors to identify them with. So they're just an amorphous mass of people, and they're on a journey for some reason that is not clarified. And we're now whisked along with them on this journey in a place we don't understand, with a destination that's not been clarified. And none of this is a mystery. It's not like it's being withheld from you and you just keep going in an attempt to understand it, to puzzle it out, or looking forward to some kind of a reveal. No. It's very clear from the writing and from the conversations these characters are having, you're supposed to be keeping up, but there's nothing to keep up with. I'm going to stop here because, as I said, this video is not supposed to be a review of this. This video is me explaining how not finishing a book still gives someone an opportunity to give a worthwhile critical analysis of a book or whatever it is, a game, a film, blah, blah, blah. You do not have to finish it to provide a worthy criticism that is useful to other people who read it, watch it, or listen to it. If someone doesn't finish a video game, I still want to hear their criticism. Maybe they couldn't give it like a star rating or an out of 10. Maybe that's not ethical or it lacks common sense to do that, but reducing something to a star rating is juvenile anyway. I can't stand doing it. I understand why people do it, don't get me wrong. If you love doing star rating, I do understand it. I just don't like diminishing reviews and criticism down into a number when I personally see criticism as something that is very valuable. For example, I follow a video game critic called SkillUp on YouTube, and SkillUp is an incredible critic. Oh my god, he has amazing talent. He really is. A brilliant wordsmith. He's very nuanced, and he doesn't do star ratings, and his reviews can be like 30, 40 minutes long. Good. Dig into that game. Explain to me everything you need me to know. Pull the mechanics apart and explain to me how you felt and why. I want all of it. Give it to me. Because I value your criticism, your talent, your skill, your observations, your connection to the game. I value these things so much. And I try and deliver something similar when I review books. And if SkillUp told me that he didn't finish a video game, that he quit halfway through, and then did a 20-minute video explaining why, I would find that fascinating, and I would find it useful, worthwhile. This kind of criticism helps us understand how something fails. When I reviewed A Court of Thorns and Roses, I admitted up front that I got halfway through, well, like 60% through, before I quit. And the amount of idiot romanticy girlies who were telling me, well, you can't even talk about it, you didn't finish it. Of course I can. The fact that I didn't finish it is important to my criticism, to why the book failed, to grab me as a reader. My relationship with that book did not work for a variety of reasons, and I go into them in that video review. This is valuable stuff. So if ever you feel bad for not finishing a book or a game or anything else, and you want to review it, do it. You can still review it. You can still give useful, passionate, intelligent criticism of something even if you didn't get through it. Because the fact that you didn't is interesting in and of itself, and I want to know why. It's okay to not finish something and still criticize it and review it. It's fine. I hope I've explained that in this video because I do feel like I got very carried away. So let me know if this was useful. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If you disagree, I'll argue with you in the comments. Or maybe I'll admit that I'm wrong. Probably not though. This is one of my hills. So hope you enjoyed. Support me on Patreon if you like what I do, and subscribe for books.